The year 1989 saw the Caped Crusader come to life at the movies. The Iron Curtain began to fall in Eastern Europe. And if you were an executive on the move, a certain full-size German luxury flagship was likely to be your preferred mode of transportation. Now on 0 to 60 TV, we're taking you on a special retro review of a classic icon, the 1989 Mercedes-Benz S-Class. So we're always on the lookout for a unicorn car to bring to you on 0 to 60 TV, and we definitely found one here today, a 1989 Mercedes-Benz S-Class. And give us a little tour back in time of this exceptional classic, this icon, is Farhan Ganti of Mercedes-Benz of Raleigh. Farhan, exactly what do we have here and what makes this car so special?
We have a 1989 420 SEL. The S-Class, as you know, is the flagship of Mercedes-Benz, and also the vehicle that has been setting the benchmark for the luxury sedan.
Yeah, and Farhan, well said. That's why we're here today, because this second generation car of the S-Class. And S-Class, I mean, so it's the flagship. It also designates that this is the full size, the largest of the sedans in the Mercedes-Benz line. Is that correct?
That is right. So it is the full size sedan. Now going back a little bit, SEL, you know, the name SEL on the S-Class, so you had back in the days 2 different versions. We still have 2 different versions now, but for the US we only do the long version. So the L was mainly here for the longer version, which was 3.9 inches longer than the regular SE. The first generation of S-Class coming up in the US in the mid-80s was the 280 SE, and then later on they introduced the SEL, which was the long version.
And when you say long version, how can you look at this car that we have here today, the 89 SEL, and tell that it is that extra length? Where does that come in?
So that extra length is coming on the back door. If you look at the back door, the first generation, the short version would be having pretty much the same amount of length between the beginning of the front door to the end of the front door, and the second one would be pretty similar in size. Versus the long version will have a longer rear door compared to the front door.
All right, so as we go around the exterior of this 89 car, and first of all, let's just talk a little bit about this particular car, not the S-Class in general for 1989, but this particular car that you have here at Mercedes-Benz of Raleigh. I understand, is this a one-owner car?
This is a one-owner car, and it has 36 original miles on it. Had been well taken care of and has a lot of features, you know, that back in the days was really rare to find on a luxury sedan.
And that's my follow-up. So as we go around, let's first just kind of talk about with the exterior of this car. So Mercedes-Benz, I'm going to ask you about the wraparound parking lamps here. They're contoured, and that used to be a Mercedes-Benz feature. The tail lights have that too. What is that called, and what does it do?
So the main, you know, the lines that you see through the turning light here are mainly to have the fluidity of water when it's actually raining to go across the vehicle and not stick to either the headlamps or the turning light. And the same thing is on the tail light at the back. You'll see multiple lines in it that, you know, create a flow of water and prevent the water to stick to the tail light.
So Farhan, when you're talking about the second generation Mercedes, when did this line of S-Class debut in the US?
So in the US it debuted in 1981 and in 1980 in Europe. And this one right here is a version that has been refreshed in 1986. A couple of things that you're going to see different on this particular vehicle here compared to the first time the second generation came out would be on the bumpers right here, which originally came out with the chrome bumpers, and then on the second phase where they did the facelift, they came up with the plastic bumpers to increase the pedestrian safety. So in case of collision with a pedestrian, it really, you know,
soften the blow.
Correct. We can say that.
And weren't the headlights, this was the new, at the time, flush style headlamp, whereas the previous original second gen, they were kind of recessed?
That is right. So this is the flush headlamp with two beam. So you can see here you have the beam on the inside and the beam on the outside, where the first one was an all one unit headlamp. Also the washer fluid on the headlamp for cleaning purposes, and it worked together with the windshield wiper.
How about going down the side of the car, looking at the wheels?
So the trademark look of the Mercedes wheel, for all these years, Mercedes has been trying to make the car safer and better and increase the driving comfort. Back then, they were trying to find ways to create a wheel that increased the aerodynamics of the car at high speed, and having the blended wheel preventing a lot of air to get through the wheel when you're driving at high speed to move the vehicle around.
Yeah, so the airstream will actually run across and over the wheels instead of getting sucked inside and causing turbulence, right?
Correct.
So Farhan, the mechanicals that made this car state-of-the-art in 1989, let's talk about that a little bit. What's under the hood? What's between the wheels, talking about the drivetrain?
So starting by what's under the hood, on this one you have a 4.2 liter V8, which was introduced a little bit later on after the 280 SE came out. A bigger car, a bigger engine, and also you have another level, which was the 560 SEL, which is the 5.6 liter, coupled with an automatic 4-speed transmission, which was also very rare back then. And on this particular car, what make it really set apart from the other competitors back then was when they introduced the air suspension versus the coil spring. Most of the car had a coil spring versus this one had an air suspension, which increased the level of comfort drastically. Wow,
so does this particular car that you have here at the dealership, is that one of the examples?
This is one of the examples.
With the air suspension, wow. So stepping inside this 89 420 SEL, what stands out? What had set the bar at that time by Mercedes-Benz?
Well, the very first thing that you would see when you get inside this vehicle and you're looking at the steering wheel or you're sitting on the passenger side is looking at the dashboard where it's mentioned airbag. Not a lot of cars had the airbag back then, and Mercedes invented the airbag. And this particular car has the airbag on the driver's side and passenger side, and also bolsters for your knees. So in case of an accident, the bolsters inflate for your knees and the airbag open up.
So again, with a car like the Mercedes-Benz, and this being the flagship, the S, you've got all these state-of-the-art safety features. It's not just about performance, it's about keeping the driver and passengers safe. And Mercedes-Benz sounds like, once again, they were at the forefront back in 1989 with this one, right?
They were really ahead. We can talk also about the seat belt, which was introduced with pretensioners. Most of the seat belt, you would just put it on and, it doesn't work according to what's going on the road.
It might be a little slack.
Correct. and the pretensioners was here, and in case of, heavy brake or in terms of a crash, it will lock you up and prevent you from moving, left and right in your car.
So, you take that for granted in our cars now and what you're driving, but in 1989, that was leading edge technology, and Mercedes put it in this car.
That was. And, once again, we're about to see more and more innovation, but back then they were very, very advanced on the market in terms of safety equipment.
What about the seats for the driver and passenger, for comfort?
So what was really special about it is, back in the days, you would have to move your seat manually. Not only the Mercedes had an electric seat, but it also had electric seat memory. So that means if you having one person driving the car and then the driver get in, because a lot of them was being driven by somebody, you could set your seat setup and then save it in there.
Is that the factory radio?
This is the factory radio.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yep. This is the factory radio.
Be great if it could pick up stations from 1989. The music was better back then.
I would think it would.
Now, Farhan, since opening the door and taking a look inside this 1989 S-Class, that brings to mind these doors. This car is kind of built like a tank. Can you explain what's special about the doors? And again, this relates back to safety.
Well, as we're all looking, for side impact safety, back in the days, the side impact was something very, very important to go over. And Mercedes decided to build these multi-layers door that really make the car safety for side impact. And well, I'm going to close the door. You're just going to hear the sound of how robust this door is. Now, not only the fact that the door is actually proven to be solid, but I want to show you one little thing while I open the door, which is called a lock pin. And this, in case of rollover, would prevent the door from detaching from the vehicle. So if I open the door and you take a look on the inside here, you will see a small pin that is actually coming out. And once you lock the vehicle, this pin is actually locked at 100%. And if the vehicle roll over, there's no way that the door can detach.
Yeah, because Farhan, I was going to say, my car does not have a pin coming out of the lock mechanism. I've never seen that before. That is amazing.
That is some of the invention that Mercedes had back in the days where you really pushed the level of safety on our cars.
Well, Farhan, as you've demonstrated, this 1989 Mercedes-Benz S-Class, was state-of-the-art for its day, just like the current 6th generation car is. But I understand with the new 7th generation car, the 2021, that's coming out soon, as you mentioned earlier, it's going to have quite a few cutting-edge technology features. What are just a few you can kind of tease us with?
So a few of them that is really innovative would be the biometric fingerprint for the driver sitting, the optional rear wheel steering, and the rear passenger airbag, which is the very first generation of car that will have a passenger airbag on the back, frontal passenger airbag.
So to be behind the front seats for the rear seat passengers.
That's right.
Well, something to look forward to, and Farhan, I know you'll bring that to us next season when we debut in 2021 on 0 to 60 TV. Farhan, thank you once again for giving us a tour of this immaculate 1989 Mercedes-Benz S-Class.
Thank you, Mark.
And if you want to learn more about the current 6th generation car, make sure you watch episode 10 on our LeithCars.com YouTube channel of 0 to 60 TV. And if you want to search for something a little newer, well, make sure you go to Mercedes-Benz Raleigh.com. For 0 to 60 TV, I'm Mark Arson. Thanks for watching.